Hey there, knife people. It's Pocket Knife Collector, and this is not a pocket knife, but it is a knife. From DLT Trading, I'm going to go ahead and open up this package. I'm going to use the Swags Swayback from Kaiser. This is the button lock version in 4V. This was a Knife Center exclusive, if I remember correctly. All right, Bark River Knives from Michigan, made in the United States. This is the first Bark River knife that I have purchased, and I got this because DLT was having a sale, and I have always been interested in Bark River knives. They have a reputation for quality, and the blade steel and blade profile of this appealed to me for a couple of reasons. Let's see what we got. Okay, so first of all, the sheath. When you order through DLT, they offer for an extra $20 the option to condition your leather sheath. I'm not sure if DLT does it or if Bark River does it. This is a sealed package, so maybe it's done at Bark River, and they just have both options available for sale at DLT. I'm not quite certain, but if you know, go ahead and tell us about it in the comments. The leather conditioner does darken the leather, in addition to giving it some weatherproofing and pliability. All right, they want to communicate on Facebook. Do not put in dishwasher. Always good advice for quality knives. This is what was described as vintage micarta. And I think they're not merely saying that this is old-fashioned looking, but this is actually old stock micarta. I've seen elsewhere that they've got some knives for sale where they specify that they're using Westinghouse micarta, which would also be old stock. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here, is that this material in the handle is micarta that was made a long time ago. And so it's a little different because manufacturing processes have changed. And it's going to look kind of unique. Got some oil on there. Okay, so what do we have? Big knife. This is coming in at a little over 8.5 inches. And an interesting grind. It's like an apple seed grind, almost. Well, there is a secondary bevel there, just barely. Handle is not giant. And if I hold it in a gorilla grip, I got 4 fingers, no problem. If I hold it in a saber grip, I still got my 4 fingers on there, but this is not extending beyond my palm. We do have one hollow pin which could be used to attach a lanyard. And there is a finger choil, sort of, up here above the guard. All right, and now I said this was part of what interested me in this knife was the steel that was used, and it is CPM 154. What's so special about CPM 154? It's been around for a while. Well, CPM 154 may not be around much longer. If you're not familiar with CPM 154, you're surely familiar with 154 CM, the traditional ingot-formed version of this same steel, which has been used in lots of knives for a long time. It has a good balance of toughness, edge retention, and stainlessness. CPM 154 is just the particle metallurgy version of 154 CM, which means it's going to have more uniformity and therefore better toughness. And it's made by Crucible Industries in the United States, but as you may have heard, I'm assuming you follow news about knife-related things if you're here watching this knife video. Crucible was recently sold to a French company, so it's no longer going to be an American steel manufacturer, and they're going to continue most of the products that they make. Apparently things like MagnaCut are going to be okay, but what I'm hearing is that they're going to stop making CPM 154. So the existing stock of CPM 154 is going to be the last available, and then it'll be gone. And it's a good steel. They also are apparently not going to be producing CPM 15V anymore. And that is not just a choice, that is due to the fact that the infrastructure that they have can't reach the heat, the temperatures required to produce CPM 15V. So 15V is out, and CPM 154 is also supposedly disappearing. All right, so this blade profile, that's tip-heavy design, if you're seeing this and thinking kukri, not quite. This is a Bolo. Bark River calls this model the Camp Bolo. It is a Filipino blade profile that goes back to very early indigenous populations there in the Philippines. Not exactly sure when the Bolo first appeared. I don't think anybody is. But it was an appropriate blade profile for agricultural purposes. So harvesting sugarcane, chopping wood, stuff like that. And then it became a weapon when they needed weapons. So the Philippines have been colonized by the Spanish and the Americans, and the Filipinos fought against their colonizers, and the Bolo became a fearsome weapon in close quarters combat, in addition to being a successful and long-lived agricultural tool. Now, it does kind of resemble a kukri, right? I've got this Kubi kukri that has some similarities. Right, so the Bolo is similar to the kukri in that it has weight at the tip of the blade and a broader blade near the tip, sort of a recurve. And these developed independently of each other. right? The kukri developed in Nepal and then spread throughout Central Asia, and the Bolo developed independently on the Philippines. But they arrived at a pretty similar design for similar purposes, right? Agricultural use and then also a weapon. And that's not always the case, right? If you're clearing brush and trees in Japan, you might use something more like this nata, which is a different profile altogether, quite heavy, and favored by forestry services in Japan. And of course, you see the echoes of these historical blade patterns in more contemporary knives, like this Jerry Hossam design for Spyderco. And I'm not even sure which model this is. Hossam designed several very similar knives at different sizes for Spyderco. I have a couple of them. One of them is called the Forester. I don't know if this is the Forester. They all have the same profile. They're just scaled to different sizes. So again here we have a broad tip and sort of a recurve and a finger choil, but it's not really a kukri and not really a bolo. Well, I'm glad I finally have a Bark River knife. I'm not sure if this handle material is still available, but at the time I'm making this video, there are still Camp Bolos for sale on DLT's website at lower than typical prices. It's not as heavy as I thought it might be. You know, an 8.5-inch blade sounds like it would be a pretty heavy knife, but this swedge takes a good bit of weight off, and then the high grind. I guess it's really a saber grind, but it feels like I could do some work with this knife for a while without getting exhausted. Okay, well, I may revisit this knife at some point in the future and talk some more about its application. I may go ahead and do some work with it, let you know how that goes. But I thought I would show it to you and just share some initial impressions. I'm Pocket Knife Collector. These are not pocket knives. But generally what we do on this channel is pocket knives, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe. And if this has been interesting to you at all, give me a thumbs up. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.